which has impugned the order of the Lahore High Court dated 11 July 2018, passed in writ petition number 222868-2018, whereby the respondent's nomination papers were ordered to be accepted and the returning officer was directed to include his name, Fazl Mahmood, in the list of eligible candidates, is dismissed. Civil Appeal number 880/2015, which has impugned the judgment of the Election Tribunal Multan, Punjab, dated 21st August 2015, whereby the election of the appellant Chaudhry Mohammad Arif Hussain as returned candidate in respect of general elections held on 11 May 2013 was declared as void, and the Election Commission of Pakistan was directed to hold fresh elections which were held and the term of the said assemblies has expired, is disposed of as having become infructuous. Civil Appeal number 1946/2023, which has impugned the order of the High Court of Sindh dated 19 October 2023, passed in Constitution Petition number 1082 of 2023, whereby the appellant's prayer for declaring him to be eligible to contest the upcoming elections was disposed of with the observation that the same would be decided at the appropriate stage if his nomination papers were rejected, is disposed of in view of the above declarations. And civil petition for leave to appeal number 2680/2023 is converted into an appeal and allowed to the extent of the appellant's disqualifications to contest elections on the ground stated in the impugned order of the Lahore High Court dated 4th May 2023, passed in writ petition number 27043/2023, which to that extent is set aside. Learned Syed Ali Imran, the Secretary of the Supreme Court Bar Association, stated that the Supreme Court Bar Association sought to withdraw Civil Miscellaneous Appeal number 22 of 2022 and Constitution petition filed in 2022, which was under objection and not numbered. Therefore, the said appeal and petition are dismissed as withdrawn. Civil Appeals number 981 and 985/2018, Civil Miscellaneous Appeal number 135/2022 in civil CP number nil of 2022 and Constitution petition number 40 of 2022 are delisted, which shall be posted for hearing separately before appropriate benches. And now I'll read the order of Justice, Mr. Justice Yahya Afridi. With profound respect, I disagree for reasons to be followed. The extent of lack of qualification of a member of the Parliament as envisaged under Article 62(1)(f) of the Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan 1973 is neither lifelong nor permanent, and the same shall remain effective only during the period the declaration so made by a court of law remains in force. Therefore, the conclusion so drawn by this court in Samiullah Baloch versus Abdul Karim Nosharwani is legally valid, hence affirmed. So this we are announcing today. Date is 8 January. I am grateful to my colleagues and to yourself and to the learned amicus who at very short notice provided invaluable assistance to this court. Thank you everyone. And please upload this on the website. So correction okay.
And now it's the ATF. Except with the ATF, they don't even claim to be experts. The director said so last week. Last week in a hearing in front of Congress in the Appropriations Committee, He was asked about firearms. He said, I'm not an expert in firearms. Not an expert, but still trying to run Americans' lives. You would think the head of the agency tasked with regulating the entire firearms industry, a constitutionally protected industry, would know something about firearms. Earlier this year, the ATF issued a rule that unilaterally puts new restrictions on Second Amendment rights. This rule redefined firearms with stabilizing braces as short-barreled rifles so that they could be controlled under the Gun Control Act of 1968, the National Firearms Act of 1934. There are approximately 40 million firearms with stabilizing braces currently in circulation. The pistol brace was created for use by disabled persons, including disabled veterans. These individuals could lose the ability to use these tools and as a result may not be able to operate their firearm. Under the new rule, these firearm owners will be required to obtain special registration, surrender or destroy their brace by the compliance date, or they will face severe criminal penalties. This is not the result of a decision made by Congress. Congress didn't change the law. No bill was introduced in this committee, passed by this committee, passed by the House, passed by the Senate, and signed by the President. Nope. This rule turns law-abiding gun owners into felons is a result of unelected bureaucrats simply enacting a new regulation. And that's not how it's supposed to work in our great country. Congress writes the laws and the executive branch enforces them. Here, the executive branch has taken power from Congress in deciding what the law should be, and that they charge themselves with enforcing, Director Dettelbach has in essence become a one-man Congress. Notably, this decision runs counter to the ATF decision under President Obama in 2012 that a firearm equipped with a stabilizing brace was, quote, would not be subject to the National Firearms Act and those controls. An independent analysis of financial harm to the firearms industry from the pistol brace ban has been estimated to exceed $1 billion. Law-abiding firearm owners relied on this ruling for a decade before having the rug pulled out from under them this year by Director Dettelbach's ATF. And it's not just with the stabilizing brace rule that the ATF is attacking the Second Amendment. They've also targeted firearms businesses by creating pretenses to shut them down. The new classifications are left purposely broad and allow the ATF to revoke the licenses of FFLs for simple technical and non-material paperwork violations. In 2022, ATF revoked over 90 licenses, more than any year since 2006. This is an attack on the Second Amendment, pure and simple, plain and simple. And I want to thank Director Dettelbach for appearing before us today, and we look forward to hearing from him and his taking our questions. With that, I would yield to the ranking member for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me begin by first apologizing for the slander we heard this morning directed at one of the great public servants of our time, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Mr. Chairman, violence continues to take the lives of more than 100 Americans every single day. It changes how safe we feel in our homes, in our schools, and in our houses of worship. It reduces vibrant cities to somber headlines. It takes our loved ones, old and young, and leaves us with another anniversary of lives cut short and a community forever traumatized. We have already lost more than 13,000 Americans to gun deaths so far this year, including 80 young children, 469 teens, and 18 law enforcement officers. We are the only nation in the industrialized world that tolerates such gruesome statistics. It is against this sobering background that Republicans have called this hearing to criticize the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the law enforcement agency tasked with keeping guns out of the wrong hands. At least Republicans are transparent about their goal: to pressure, intimidate, and hamstring the agency so that it can no longer effectively do its job and protect Americans from violent crime. Some Republicans have even introduced a bill to abolish the ATF altogether. That's right. They seek to eliminate the law enforcement agency responsible for protecting communities from gun violence, stopping gun trafficking, and ensuring lawful and responsible gun ownership. Local law enforcement depends on the ATF to provide resources that help them solve crimes and prevent gun violence. In a recent President's message in Police Chief magazine, International Association of Chiefs of Police President John Lateny encourages fellow police chiefs to, quote, take advantage of the no-cost systems offered by the ATF to help investigate and ultimately remove dangerous weapons from our communities, close quote. He noted that, quote, ATF has the only gun tracing platform in the United States that can be used by local, state, federal, and global law enforcement agencies to investigate criminal gun activity, close quote. ATF also runs the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, which provides local, state, tribal, and federal law enforcement at no cost with ballistic imaging, a critical tool that can help solve crime and prevent further gun violence. ATF also carries out its mission by lending its expertise, such as by classifying weapons, advising prosecutors, and promulgating regulations, and by collaborating with various law enforcement agencies. As Chief Lateny explains, collaboration can improve overall violence reduction strategies while allowing each piece of the system to focus on what they do best. Clearly, the President of the International Association of Chiefs of Police sees the great value that ATF provides. But some Republicans seek to abolish this agency and to end the work that it does to make Americans safer. Other Republicans merely seek to starve the agency of funding, to place additional restrictions on the use of its data to help solve crimes and keep communities safe, or to dismantle its regulations. In fact, just last week, this committee voted to prevent the ATF from regulating stabilizing braces, a device used in multiple mass shootings, including most recently in Nashville, to convert a pistol into a more dangerous short-barreled rifle. We just heard the chairman excoriate the ATF by saying it adopted this rule on gun braces without congressional action, without the Senate, the House, and the President signing it. Well, that's the function of any executive agency entrusted by Congress with making rules. How can it be that the majority says it stands with law enforcement, yet it seeks to abolish the only law enforcement agency with the capability of tracing gun crimes, of tracing crime guns, I should say? How can the majority say that they support state and local police while attempting to hamstring and starve the agency that provides them with so many critical resources for solving crime, including homicides, gun trafficking, and organized crime? The answer lies in another part of ATF's responsibilities, making sure that gun dealers follow the law by conducting background checks, refusing to sell to those who are not allowed to have firearms, and keeping records so that crime guns can be traced. The overwhelming majority of gun sellers have no problem following these laws, but when gun dealers willfully refuse to follow them, it is ATF's responsibility to revoke their license to sell. The ATF upheld that responsibility last year, revoking 92 licenses for gun sellers with serious willful violations, a tiny fraction of the over 130,000 licensed firearm dealers. But gun groups cried foul, claiming that such revocations are crushing gun sellers, revoking 92 out of 130,000 licenses. And then Republicans introduced legislation to abolish the ATF. Republicans' priorities are clear. They would prefer to keep every gun store in the country open, even those that willfully violate the law, rather than to let ATF save lives simply by enforcing the law. It is essential that we conduct oversight of our agencies to ensure that they are fulfilling their missions. But today's hearing makes no attempt to fulfill that responsibility. Instead, it shows how radically out of step my Republican colleagues are with the American people, with law enforcement, and even with many responsible gun owners. Democrats have put forth a range of solutions to prevent gun violence, to support law enforcement, and to solve crimes. But our colleagues across the aisle continue to push for unfettered access to assault weapons, concealable rifles, and ghost guns. As Republicans continue to seek freedom from gun regulation, we will continue to seek communities free from gun violence. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back without objection. All of their opening statements will be included in the record. We will now introduce today's witness, Mr. Dettelbach, the Honorable Stephen Dettelbach was sworn in as Director of the ATF on July 13th, 2022. As Director, he is responsible for leading an agency charged with enforcing, laws and regulations related to firearms, explosives, arson, alcohol, tobacco, and tobacco trafficking. He previously served as U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Ohio and in various positions with the Department of Justice and U.S. Attorney's offices. Welcome our witness today and thank him for appearing. We will begin by swearing you in. Would you please rise and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief, so help you God? Let the record show the witness has answered in the affirmative. Thank you. Please be seated. Please know that your written testimony will be entered into the record in its entirety. Accordingly, we ask that you summarize your testimony, and you've done this before, Mr. Dettelbach. You get 5 minutes. You know how it works, and then we'll proceed with questioning. So, Mr. Dettelbach, you can start your testimony.
Good morning, Chairman Jordan, Ranking Member Nadler, and members of the committee. I'm honored to appear before this committee to discuss the public safety mission of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. I'm also honored to represent the dedicated men and women of ATF who work tirelessly and often risk everything alongside our law enforcement partners to protect the American people from violent crime. At ATF, everything we do begins and ends with public safety. ATF is a small law enforcement agency, just over 5,100 employees, with a huge mission to prevent, disrupt, and reduce violent crime. As Director of ATF, I am briefed on what feels like countless murders and shootings that take place across the United States every day. This includes the mass murder incidents that often grab national headlines, such as last month's horrific murders at the Tennessee school, but it also includes countless shootings that take place every day, devastate families and communities, but don't make the news. By some counts, so far this year, there have already been 174 mass shootings, and 99 law enforcement officers have been shot in the line of duty. Every day, more than 100 people in America die from gun violence, and many more are permanently injured. Victims and survivors of gun violence deserve better, as do their families, their communities, and law enforcement officers, including those at ATF and our local partners, who every day run toward the gunfire. The level of gun violence in America is quite simply unacceptable. Because of the way our constitutional system is designed, fighting violent crime falls first to local, state, and tribal law enforcement, and we at ATF are deeply committed to supporting them in those efforts. ATF embodies the Department of Justice's commitment to combat violent crime by being a force multiplier to our law enforcement partners. We stand shoulder to shoulder with them each day to help reduce and fight violent crime all over this nation. That's what ATF agents did with the brave men and women of the Tulare County Sheriff's Department recently, when they took gunfire standing side by side to arrest a mass killer in Goshen, California. That person had allegedly executed a 10-month-old baby. And we do that all the time with our partners. There is really no better partner for the courageous people in local law enforcement than their courageous partners at ATF. ATF's efforts are driven by two priorities: get shooters off the street and cut off the unlawful supply of firearms that fuels their violence. One of our greatest assets in accomplishing these priorities is our expertise in crime gun intelligence. Crime gun intelligence is ATF's ability to squeeze every last bit of evidence out of a firearm used in a crime, so that together with our state and local partners, we can find the trigger pullers who are terrorizing our communities and put them where they belong, in jail. The National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, NIBIN, allows us to connect